Welcome to my talk about the Olmecs, about the Olmec artwork. On your right here, you have a Olmec sculpture, the classic iconic Olmec heads that are well known and discussed. And on your left, there's a Volkswagen Bug from the 1970s. I show these side by side because for me, and since this is a introductory type art lecture, introductory to art history, as well as to this civilization and their artwork. Um, for me in art history classes, the elephant in the room when I was younger was the tangibility of the artwork, and in some ways that is a strong suit of a retinal based experience is that the elephant in the room is how heavy are these things actually, and what is it like to actually walk around them? And so I try to provide some 3D renderings that you can walk around objects, and I try to show videos of objects when they're three-dimensional, and I try to show things like this. So a Volkswagen Bug is 1 ton from the 70s, and the heads can be up to 25 tons. And so imagine 25 of these compressed together in order to equate with the density of basalt stone, which is what these heads were carved out of. Basalt meaning hard from Greek, I think. So yeah, so that just kind of trying to give a sense, but also maybe lay bare or elucidate the fact that we're dealing with a particular perspective or point of view on reality with a two-dimensional slideshow about artworks that has its strengths and weaknesses. So just to I'm going to give a really brief introduction because I think a lot of people have never heard of the Olmecs or don't know about Mesoamerica and where they are compared to maybe the Egyptians and all the museum shows of the Egyptians. So I'm going to give a quick introductory historical survey and geographical thing with some maps and charts. And then I'll show, 10, 12 slides of Olmec work. And then I'll set it up with these two prompts I have that I think are really informative in terms of entering art history and entering art history from an archaeological, anthropological place like an ancient civilization. So yeah, we're gonna end up with some vocabulary terms having to do with visual art by the end of this, and this is the first of a 6 lecture series on the history of Mexican art, and I am going as of now. I'm going to go in a chronological order through the history of people living in Mexico. And then there's also going to be this vocabulary having to do with anthropological and archaeological disciplines, kind of vaguely. So just to get down to timeline and facts, so we're oriented a little bit. The Olmec civilization is from the 1600 BC. This is very old. This is one of the 6 pristine civilizations of humanity, of our world. And for that reason, it's crucial to spend time and effort and energy understanding who these people were and the things that they made and what we have left. Their heartland, where their center is the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, and it's the narrowest place within Mexico's borders between the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific Ocean. And as one of the 6 pristine civilizations. So we have Mesoamerica, Peru, Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and ancient China here. So this is a really dense and difficult topic, but I think it's worth the effort is to bring along with us, to bring this bag along with us when we're looking at these artworks of state formation, and to keep that in mind that we're talking about a pristine civilization, which is a civilization that came to be a state, that came to stratify their classes, and and things like irrigation and farming and politics and leaders, and the idea is it went from tribes to chiefdoms to states. And Mesoamerica is really specific and important because it's the only tropical, lowland tropical place where that happened, where humans decided to do this. So it's the jungle. And here's another map for good measure. This is the Coatzacoalco River, where the Olmecs started in 1600s, and they buried these heads. It seems like someone buried them around 900 BC, and they think that they devolved around this time due to ecological reasons. And Tlatilco, we're going to see a lot of works from there. So there's, in this kind of situation, the archaeological record is available to extrapolate things like the Olmec center was in the Tehuantepec Isthmus, but they had influence on the Tlatilco culture. And so we're going to see works from outside the boundaries of this isthmus, as far as Guatemala and Tlatilco. This is just a quick timeline of the different pristine civilizations, these civilizations that came to be independently. And you can see the Olmecs are considered quite late, and there's various debates regarding this. There's really so much to talk about that I have to be very careful not to get distracted here, but we have Indus here, Egypt here, Sumerians, and the Olmecs around 1600. So the Olmecs, we hear a lot about Mayans, we hear about Aztecs. This is before all of that. The Olmecs are the mother civilization, and if you whatever type of continuity whatever camp of continuity you decide to attend, to be a part of, you could say that all these cultures after the Olmecs were influenced by the Olmecs. This is just an example of the terrain. Coatzacoalco River comes up here, and these are the mountains where they mined the basalt rock from. This is a good map of Mexico showing these different regions of cultural influence here. And lastly, I guess in terms of these dates and facts, I'm just going to show this here, and this helps us understand just how old the pre-classic period is when the Olmecs came to be in 15 to 1600 BC and flourished from 1200 onwards here. And then we see much later the Aztecs, and then finally the Spanish arriving. So in addition to that, I'm just going to say a couple more facts about what they produce. So they produced 250 known monumental works. They got the first pyramid. They built a giant man-made ridge, a city that had about 10,000 people, which is the definition globally for an ancient city. They produce sophisticated sculptures of humans and anthropomorphic works and animals and cave paintings, which we'll see, that are really unbelievably exquisite renditions of what it means to be human. And also it's important to note we're dealing with what survived. So what was made out of wood or anything that was perishable, imagine these might have been painted, they might have been adorned with fabrics. We don't have that in our archaeological record when we're going this far back. So that's important to consider, that we are dealing with kind of scraps of information, and that has an element of randomness to how these incredible archaeologists and anthropologists construct what this culture was from these pieces, from these puzzle pieces. Okay, so now I'm just going to show several works, and then after that we'll get into a more art historical language with which to approach these, a kind of contemporary art historical methodology to approach these. Here's another head. Again, this is very popular in our art history books. If you have heard of the Olmecs, it's often these heads, and that's an interesting point in of itself. This is a classic Tlatelolco style animal object. These black objects with designs on them, hollow, three-dimensional. This is part of the class of objects that are the stone masks. Really, there's just so much to talk about. We're dealing with from chiefdom to statehood, we see mask culture really changes. Masks start to be used less ceremoniously and to embody a god or spirit, and they're more kind of adorned on objects and architecture and clothing. So this probably was not worn. Then we have this kind of myth and this history of these heads traveling around the world. This is the head in one of the Olmec heads in New York City in 1960s. They were discovered in 1856. People thought they were Ethiopian. They could not believe that this incredible craftsmanship and poignancy could be created in South America. It has all since been disproven. This is the classic class of objects, the baby faces. These are hollow white ceramic objects. That last object and this one, I believe, are both from Tlatelolco, which is outside of the heartland, but they think that craftsmen were sent there to train others or that they worked there. This is this kind of dual spirit. This is the jadeite. The Olmecs are considered unsurpassed in their ability to carve jadeite. They did not have metal tools. We're talking about very slow abrasive practices. This is the classic jaguar motif, kind of a metamorphosis of man to jaguar, jaguar to man. This is the acrobat figures class. So that's the set of introductory slides I wanted to show about the Olmecs. And now I'll get into these props, these art historical props.